hours or 6 p.m.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news at 6 comes to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken and KFC. With the news at this time, I'm Dennis Chabrol. Good evening. First, the highlights. The opposition leader says he wants to discuss more than just constitutional appointments with the president. The Guyana Power and Light plans to build a high-tech station at Eccles to control most of the country's electricity supply. Regionally, the Caribbean will soon get a hearing by the United States Congress about correspondent banking relationships. Cost of living is about to go up in the Bahamas. Internationally, we get the latest from the BBC in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Details coming up.
Planning to watch TV or listen to the radio or just enjoy a lime? Then grab a bucket of KFC finger-licking good chicken and enjoy the exciting taste of KFC and their branches on Visinjan Road, Mandela Avenue, Regent Street, Ink Street, Stabbrook Square, Breedenhoop, Parika, Movie Town, or now at the Amazonia Mall at Providence. Now open from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. You'll always be enjoying the great taste of KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
And now the news in detail. Opposition leader Aubrey Norton wants his meeting with President Irfan Ali to discuss several matters affecting Guyanese rather than only the appointment of several service commissions. President Irfan Ali was Thursday expected to dispatch a letter of invitation to the constitutionally required consultations within the next 2 weeks. In addition to saying that the president cannot unilaterally fix a date for those consultations that have to do with the appointment of several service commissions, the opposition leader wants the agenda widened.
In representing them, there will be constitutional matters, and there will be matters that are not stated in the Constitution as a constitutional issue to be determined between the president and the opposition leader. And I will push for both, because I believe you cannot deal with one and not deal with the other. And it is my sincere hope that good sense will prevail and we attempt to deal with the issues in the society in a holistic way rather than in a piecemeal fashion that will generate its own problems.
Mr. Norton has identified several issues he wants to discuss with the president.
Meeting with the president, should they occur, must extend beyond the appointment of commissioners and judges. Meetings must also discuss opposition concerns about good governance and the abuse of political power by the People's Progressive Party, including discrimination against opposition-led local councils, the uneven and incomplete distribution of flood and other relief, the unsatisfactory oversight of the national patrimony in the National Resource Fund, and the abuse of human and legal rights by some rogue police ranks.
The Guyana government is on record as saying that political discussions other than those constitutionally required would be hinged on the PNCR-led opposition coalition recognizing the government as having been legitimately elected at the March 2, 2020 general and regional elections. APNU-AFC continues to maintain that the PPP had engineered the rigging of the polls through a number of irregularities and used a bloated voters list to do so. At the same time, the coalition is on record as calling for political engagements. The American Chamber of Commerce Guyana, AmCham, says investors are already lining up to get into the construction of prefabricated buildings. The president of AmCham Guyana, attorney at law Davindra Kissoon, made known this development at the official launching of the International Building Expo 2022, scheduled to be held in July of this year.
Already persons have demonstrated unbridled enthusiasm for this macro project, expressing an interest to build in Guyana and supply prefabricated concrete walls to speed up the construction of commercial buildings, manufacture and install and assemble Guyanese-manufactured homes, prefabricated homes, so that persons can quickly get housing, venture even into 3D printing of items which will act as accessories to the construction center, and even some have expressed the hope of using hemp for the purposes of construction should the legislative framework be enacted.
President Irfan Ali has said that Guyana would have to become more than just a grower of hemp. He says there will be need for a hemp processing facility. The Guyana Power and Light is planning to build a sophisticated centralized station that will monitor and operate all major substations. GPL's Chief Executive Officer Barry Dindial says a smart grid system will be installed along with a new national control system that is expected to come into operation in another 8 years.
There's going to be a new national control center at Eccles that's going to manage the entire system. There's going to be a state-of-the-art system, and the system then, by the time this is completed, we expect to have all our isolated systems in Essequibo, which is the Essequibo Coast, Leg 1, Wakenham, Bartica, and even Linden, integrated into the national grid. So the quality of power is going to dramatically improve. We're going to be investing specifically in power quality, voltage regulation, and monitoring of the entire system. We're going to have the ability to simulate the system in different configurations and determine what is the best configuration to ensure security and stability of the entire system.
Mr. Dindial also says a new substation will be built at Eccles, East Bank, Demerara, to receive the 300 megawatts of electricity from the Wales natural gas-powered station. He says electricity will be fed from Wales to Eccles by two 230 kilovolt transmission lines. Mr. Dindial also says from Eccles the power will be fed to the Sophia substation. Plans are also being made to extend the 230 kilovolt transmission lines to Williamsburg Quarantine. The GPL chief says the 165 megawatts from the Amalia Falls hydropower station will also be fed to Eccles. Turning to news now from the region, the Caribbean Community CARICOM will soon be able to lay out its concerns about the impact of removal of correspondent banking relationships. A number of U.S. banks have either stopped doing business with a number of banks in the Caribbean or have tightened the rules, saying that they feared the movement of laundered money or cash to finance terrorism. We get more from Barbados today.
The United States Congress will hear firsthand the Caribbean's concern about correspondence banking challenges, and those hearings are likely to take place before year-end. That's among the major outcomes of an intense round of talks involving CARICOM leaders and members of the Financial Services Committee of the U.S. Congress. The talks were jointly chaired by Prime Minister Mia Mottley and the United States Congresswoman Maxine Waters, the chairwoman of the U.S. House Committee on Financial Services at the Lloyd Erskine Sandiford Center. At a press conference this evening, Mottley said, having heard the region's concern, the U.S. delegation agreed the issues should be presented to Congress.
The U.S. congressional delegation has agreed that this issue is of such major import that it really now merits congressional hearings to allow us to bring not only those who were here in Barbados today, but to expose this issue to a wider audience, and also to bring those other banks who may well be benefiting from our business, but who are not willing to share in the burden that may be necessary in meeting additional regulatory issues as it relates to giving us the opportunity to be beneficiaries of correspondent banking relationships. The truth is that the refrain that is heard the most is that we are too small and not profitable enough for them to undertake the enhanced due diligence that may be required of them in different markets.
Motley stressed that tackling these kinds of matters was imperative for the region's survival.
It is important that the banking sector on both sides, in the U.S. and in the Caribbean, get to know each other, get to speak to each other, and start to deconstruct and reconstruct such that we understand what it is we're trying to achieve, why the regulatory requirements are so complex and challenging, and how we can minimize it. All of us know that the notion that you're going to ask an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old to bring a light bill to open a bank account when years ago we would just walk into a bank and open a bank account. It's today absurd. And it therefore means that too many of our citizens are remaining unbanked because of the additional burdens being placed on banks in order to be able to meet the demands and to ensure that they themselves, as one put it today, we have sometimes to de-risk customers to ensure that we as banks are not de-risked.
Barbados' Prime Minister Mia Mottley ending that report from Barbados today. Antigua and Barbuda's newest political party, the Democratic National Alliance, DNA, has unveiled 16 candidates. The party will be contesting all seats in Antigua. ABS Radio's Jessica Russell spoke with DNA leader Joan Messiah.
It has been a long labor of love, but we're all delighted to be at this point when we are positioned and poised to contest all 16 seats here on Antigua.
The Democratic National Alliance launched their candidates for the next general elections at the JSC Sports Complex with a modest turnout on Tuesday evening. However, the party's president, Joan Messiah, says she's not dismayed.
We're happy because certainly we're still in the COVID environment, and a number of people have said that they would have been tuning in online, and so we are monitoring the numbers and we're very, very happy.
She says the DNA will campaign on a number of issues plaguing Antiguans and Barbudans.
Certainly the cost of living, the increasing cost of living, certainly the failure to diversify our economy, the education, healthcare, water.
She says land ownership and affordable housing are other issues the party will advocate for. Messiah says this is what makes our party different.
We have men and women who are true patriots. We have men and women who have not ever been embroiled in any scandal. Those of us who have been in government. We recognize that we represent, broadly speaking, what the society reflects.
General elections are constitutionally due in 2023. Jessica Russell, ABS News.
Cost of living in the Bahamas is expected to increase again. That's a prediction by the International Monetary Fund, IMF. More from our news, Bethany McDermott.
The International Monetary Fund is projecting consumer prices will increase by 7.3% this year. Prime Minister Philip Davis says the news didn't take him by surprise. He says his government is working to mitigate the impact on consumers.
We're looking at measures and initiatives now to do that. We are talking with shipping companies to lower the cost of freight coming in and to try to get discounts on containers. We've already successfully did that with one company, and we are now talking about how we could assist through the logistical supply chain.
BBC News with Fiona MacDonald. President Biden says the United States will send another $800 million worth of military assistance to Ukraine. Mr. Biden said the aid would include dozens of howitzers and more tactical drones. The spokesman for the Pentagon, John Kirby, described how the drones had been adapted specifically for the Ukraine conflict.
This unmanned aerial system is designed for tactical operations. In other words, largely, but not exclusively, to attack targets. It, like almost all unmanned aerial systems, of course, has optics. So it can also be used to give you a sight picture of what it's seeing, of course. But its principal focus is attack.
According to the Interfax Ukraine news agency, the Ukrainian Deputy Defence Minister has urged patience, saying that it took time to buy and arrange for the delivery of weapons. The president of the World Bank has said Ukraine has suffered about $60 billion worth of physical damage following Russia's invasion of the country. That will rise further as the conflict continues, and the early estimate of damages does not include the growing economic costs of the war to Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Ukraine needs $7 billion a month to make up for losses caused by Russia. The former Honduran president, Juan Orlando Hernandez, is being extradited to the United States, where he'll stand trial on 3 charges associated with drug trafficking. US officials are accompanying him on a flight which took off from an Air Force base south of the capital. Mr. Hernandez, who led Honduras for almost a decade, denies the claims.
Que la verdad se revele y prevalezca. May the truth be revealed and prevail during my case. I am innocent. I have been and still am being treated in an unjust process. I want to echo some powerful words that say, injustice occurring anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
British MPs have agreed to set up an inquiry into whether the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, lied to them about parties in Downing Street during lockdown. He's denied this and has rejected calls by the opposition to step down. Our correspondent Helen Katz says a failed attempt to delay the vote is telling.
When you've got a majority of that size, you should just be able to do these things. It shouldn't have come down to this. So it certainly does feel like the support wasn't there. And there is the feeling, I think, among Conservative MPs, it certainly feels more like we are back where we were perhaps a month ago, a bit before that, when there did seem to be that slight momentum building towards this being the sort of start of the end game, if you like. It then sort of calmed down for a bit, but it does feel like we are much more back there than we have been recently.
World News from the BBC. The far-right challenger for the French presidency, Marine Le Pen, has been holding her final main rally of the campaign ahead of Sunday's runoff vote. Ms Le Pen told supporters in the northern city of Arras that French civilization itself was at stake. The Eurosceptic nationalist politician criticised her rival, President Emmanuel Macron's economic record. The Arab League has called on Israel to end Jewish prayers in Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, saying it could trigger wider conflict. After an emergency meeting in the Jordanian capital Amman, the Arab League chief said Israel had restricted Muslims in their right of worship, while allowing ultra-nationalist Jews to enter the site under police protection. Officials in Afghanistan say dozens of people have been killed in 4 bomb attacks across the country. The first explosion killed more than 30 worshippers in a Shia mosque. More than 90 other people were injured. Sikander Kermani has more.
The Islamic State group said its militants had planted explosives inside a mosque in Mazar-i-Sharif, attended by members of the Shia Hazara minority, and then detonated them remotely. It's the second time the community has been struck this week. An attack on a school in a Hazara district of Kabul took place on Tuesday. IS is a fierce rival of the Taliban's, and whilst they do not control any territory, they have repeatedly carried out deadly attacks since the Taliban came to power, including in parts of the country where IS previously had little or no presence.
The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has told the leader of the new Presidential Council for Yemen that it's necessary to seize the momentum from recent positive developments in the country. Mr Blinken spoke by phone to Rashad Al-Alimi, who heads the council that now runs the Saudi-backed government, after President Abd Rabbu Mansur Hadi had stepped aside. BBC News.
That's the news to the moment.
Hit the standing lines? Don't worry, KFC has got you covered with their drive-thrus, which are open now from 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. at Movietown, Vlissingen Road, Mandela Avenue, Reading Hoop, Parika and the Amazonia Mall. That's right, you can drive through at 6 of their 9 locations. Remember, their current opening hours are 9 a.m. to 10:30 p.m. Go on down and let your taste buds savor the spices today. KFC.
It's finger-licking good.
Now to end the news, a recap of the highlights. The opposition leader says he wants to discuss more than just constitutional appointments with the president. The Guyana Power and Light plans to build a high-tech station at Eccles to control most of the country's electricity supply. Regionally, the Caribbean will soon get a hearing by the United States Congress about correspondent banking. And the cost of living is about to go up in the Bahamas. Internationally, we got the latest from the BBC in the war between Russia and Ukraine. That's the end of the news, which came to you with the compliments of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.
To time in Guyana, 18 hours 19.
For the toughest jobs, there's only one original motor oil, Valvoline, powering the world's heavy-duty engines in every corner of the world. You can trust the super protection of the original to keep your business moving forward. Valvoline, the original that never stops improving. Distributed by Swiss Machinery, Eccles Public Road. Telephone 233-3821 or 2495 or WhatsApp 691-1732.
Stand by. We'll be joining the BBC World Service in a moment. This is News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Don't forget you can tune in tomorrow again from 6 o'clock for Beat the Clock right here on 103.1 FM. But until then, you can listen to great programming from the BBC World Service in London. Over now to London.
Permanent coach since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's departure in November, Ralph Rangnick has been in interim charge since then.